Crucifixion and enlightenment. Whenever I see a crucified figure of Christ, I cannot help thinking of the gap that lies deep between Christianity and Buddhism. At the end of his life, we see the Buddha laying serenely under the twin sala trees, surrounded by his disciples. In Christianity, crucifixion is needed. Corporality requires a violent death. And as soon as this is done, resurrection must take place in one or other form. As Paul says, if Christ be not risen, then our preaching is vain, and your faith is also vain. You are yet in sins. The dead must be resurrected. In Adam we die, in Christ we live. Crucifixion has no meaning unless it is followed by resurrection. So the resurrected one goes up to heaven. The soil of the earth still clings to it. What is needed in Buddhism is neither crucifixion nor resurrection, but enlightenment. You do not have to go up to heaven for this transformation to take place. With this resurrection, there is still the order of the body in it. In enlightenment, there is a sense of transcendence. Through the experience of enlightenment, a new sun rises above the horizon, and the whole universe is revealed. Christian symbolism has much to do with the suffering of man. The crucifixion is the climax of all suffering. Buddhists also speak much about suffering, and its climax is the Buddha serenely sitting under the Bodhi tree. Christ carries his suffering to the end of his earthly life, whereas Buddha puts an end to it while living, and afterwards goes on preaching the gospel of enlightenment until he quietly passes away under the twin sala trees. The Buddha laying horizontally makes us think of peace and contentment. Christ hangs helpless, full of sadness on the vertical cross. To the Oriental mind, this sight is almost unbearable. Now let us make a comparison between a man sitting cross-legged in meditation and a crucified one. A sitting figure gives us the notion of solidity. The body sets itself down with the hips and folded legs securely on the ground. The center of gravity is around the loins. This is the securest position. This is also the symbol of peace and tranquility. A standing position generally suggests action. On the other hand, the sitting cross-legged posture of meditation makes a man feel not detached from the earth, and yet not too much involved in it. True, he is supported by the earth, but he is neither attached to the soil nor detached from it. We talk very much about detachment, as if attachment is so hateful a thing that we must somehow try to achieve the opposite, non-attachment. But I do not know why we have to move away from things lovable and really conducive to our social and individual welfare. Shakyamuni spent his 79 years by going from one place to another and teaching his gospel of enlightenment to all sorts of people in every way, and finally passed away quietly. What shall we say about Buddha's life? When he apparently enjoyed it to the utmost of his heart's content, is it a life of attachment or of detachment? I would say that instead of using such terms as attachment or detachment in order to evaluate his life, Is it not better to call it a life of absolute freedom? When Buddha attained his supreme enlightenment, he was in a sitting posture. He was neither attached to or nor detached from the earth. Christianity, on the other hand, presents a very few things which are difficult to comprehend, namely the symbol of the cross. The crucified Christ is a terrible sight, and I cannot help associating it with sadism. Christians would say that crucifixion means crucifying yourself or the flesh, since without subduing the self we cannot attain moral perfection. This is where Buddhism differs from Christianity. Buddhism declares that there is from the very beginning no self to crucify. To think that there is a self is the start of all errors. Ignorance is at the root of all things that go wrong. As there is no self, no crucifixion is needed, no shocking sight to be displayed by the roadside. According to Buddhism, the world is a network of karmic interrelationships, and there is no agent behind the net who holds it. To have an insight into the truth of things, we have to dispel the cloud of ignorance. To do this, one must discipline oneself in seeing clearly into the suchness of things. Christianity tends to emphasize the corporality of our existence, hence its crucifixion, and hence also the symbolism of eating the flesh and drinking the blood. To non-Christians, the very thought of drinking the blood is distasteful. Christians would say, this is the way to realize the idea of oneness with Christ. But non-Christians would answer, could the idea of oneness be realized in some other way, more peacefully and less violently? What a contrast between the crucifixion image of Christ and the picture of Buddha laying on a bed surrounded by his disciples. That Christ died vertically on the cross, whereas Buddha passed away horizontally. Does this not symbolize the fundamental difference between Buddhism and Christianity? Buddhism is just the opposite of Christianity. The horizontal nirvana Buddha may suggest indifference and inactivity. So Buddhism is really the religion of peace, serenity, equanimity. It shows universal tolerance and aloofness from worldly discriminations. To stand up means that one is ready for action. Christianity wants to crucify the self. As this enemy always threatens you, you have to be combative. But when you clearly perceive that this deadly enemy who keeps you on the alert is non-existent, when you understand that it is no more than a nightmare, a mere delusion trying to overpower you, you then will be for the first time at peace with yourself, and also with the world at large. Then you can afford to lay down